You talk about the games that are kind of winnable and the games that are shocks and surprises, but for Kellen Moore, his first foray as a head coach, which games will show what he's made of?
I mean, the ones that are early in the season, I think are going to matter a lot because you're trying to get player buy-in and everything,
Yeah,
and you don't have to win the games. You don't. I think everyone's probably pretty logical. If a lot depends on quarterback, a lot depends on. I think all those guys know. But if you're going in there and it makes sense, and you have a plan, and people are bought in, and it
yeah,
makes sense, and they feel like you're giving them a chance to win, and they feel prepared, even if the result isn't there, it can be there. Remember Dan Campbell's first season with the
yeah,
Lions; they weren't a very good football team, but they felt like they had a chance every week. They were in games, they were prepared. They just didn't have enough talent. You can do that. It can be that, but you got to just make sure that you're putting the players in the best position. And I think if you're handling that early in the season, that helps a little bit later on. As far as what he's made of, I mean, it's a funny schedule. It's a funny schedule because I think there's really only two games on here where it feels like it's like a major title fight,
yeah.
and it's the Rams and the Bills. I think those are the two games where you're kind of in a measuring stick type of game. There isn't a great and powerful defense on here. The 49ers, if they get healthy, they could be a juggernaut again pretty quick. So maybe them. So there's maybe three games on here where I'm like, man, that's a huge measuring stick for him. Looking at it right now, things change during the season, but I'm not looking at the Jets. I'm not looking at the Giants. I'm not looking at the Pats. I'm not looking at Miami's not what they were. I'm not looking at Seattle like that. I mean, there just aren't a lot of those games on the schedule.
No, for sure. And I agree. And also to add on to that list, I think those divisional games have to be on there. And two of them in particular, the first game against Tampa Bay and then the first game against the Falcons, because I mean, as we saw at the end of the what was that 2023 season when they went rogue and hit the goal line play with just not Justin Williams, I'm sorry, with Jamal Williams and Jameis Winston, and then at the end of that game, just the interaction between Dennis Allen and Arthur Smith, that kind of showed me something about DA where I was like, yo, you got to stand with your guys. Even if you go take them in the locker room and, go off on them on the field, you have to stand with them. So I think just seeing kind of what he's made of and how he approaches not that same exact situation because I don't ever see that happen again, but just that divisional fire that okay, we're supposed to beat you guys. You're our rivals. You're the guys that we really don't like. And we're gonna show out and show up. Also on that list for me is when you start losing those skid of games, if that happens, how does the team respond to
Yeah.
that? How are you able to bounce back from that? Do you lose the locker room? You talked about the locker room early in the early buy-in. It's cool when you're 0-1. I mean, you don't like it, but 0-1, 0-2, 1-3, those type of things. But if you've gone on a skid, how do you get yourself out of that? How do you course correct and things like that? That's kind of what I'm looking for also.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the schedule, yeah, circumstantially, I think that's probably the biggest thing is figuring that out and making sure that you have that buy-in, you have the culture, all that stuff. Yeah, handling the skids and all that. We saw it last year. I mean, it just
Yeah.
started happening, and the weight of that year after year, and you're coming in, you're trying to have a fresh start. I mean, there is going to be some residual feelings of that
Yeah.
if you end up in the same place. Some of the vets I've been talking to already, I mean, they're looking at it. Oh man, it better not be like last year. Da da da. And it's just like, fellas, like
Yeah.
you see the quarterback just retired,
Yeah.
but that's where they're at. So again, I think it's though it's really more about feeling like you have a puncher's chance. And I think a lot of times last year they felt unprepared. They felt like they didn't have the best plans to be in position to succeed both sides of the ball. And obviously before that, offensively, like I feel like they didn't really feel like they were in a great position. I think defensively it just kind of eroded. The
Yeah.
plans were probably fine, but I think when you start losing and things aren't working and the talent isn't there and you're just on this like multi-year skid, you kind of start getting there. But defensively, like there was starting to be some frustrations last year. I still think he knows how to coach defense, but offensively, yeah, they just were never really in a great place. The thing is, though, is I think the offense is almost like completely reset. It's kind of crazy that like Olave is like one of the veteran players on that
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
Him and Alvin are kind of it. But yeah, it's definitely going to be about how you handle stuff like that.
No, for sure. It's funny because last year it got to the point where it was the break glass in case of emergency. All right, now I got to pull Rizzy out, the people's champ, to have everybody reinvigorated and juiced up. You don't have that this year. You just have to go straight up off of kind of how this team is going to be built. But we talked about Kellen Moore and showing what he's made of. I think this also kind of serves as an audition for Brandon Staley once again to kind of get back into those head coaching circles, maybe down the line. So some of those offensive matchups against him, like you kind of wrote Seattle off, but in those terms, in that lens, I think Seattle is going to be an important game just to see what he does against Kubiak.
Yeah, well, every game's going to be important for him, man. Like
Yeah,
he's trying to be he is trying to be a head coach again. I mean, I think those are his aspirations. I think he wants to get back there, and it's important, Every and I think it would be either way, but yeah, everything's important for him. I think building this thing up. I don't think you come out of the gates though and have a ton of success. I don't know what
yeah,
Seattle's going to be. I wrote it off as like a headline game. I mean, but like Sam Darnold, Kubiak, yeah. I mean, it matters a little bit, I guess. I mean, they're just so talent deficient on that side of the ball. Like if they don't get Asante Samuel Jr., and I think they will, I think that one's been written in the stars since the beginning of the offseason, but there just isn't that defense does not have talent right now. And
yeah.
they got to prove it. They got to prove they do. Like if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, fine. But I don't see the talent really in the defensive line. I'm really, really concerned about cornerback across the board. I think there's a lot to prove there. Safety is really in linebacker or middle linebacker, the only two positions I feel good about on that side of the ball. But it's incredibly important for Staley. He's on that rehab tour that DA was on. Except I think he comes in here with a little bit of a stronger resume as a head coach than DA did. Like they actually made the playoffs and
Yeah.
kind of had won games. He was more of a 500 coach there. Da was way lower when he came in, but absolutely, incredibly important for him to just kind of take advantage of every single opportunity. The big games for him, it's like he shows out against the Bills or
Yeah.
the Rams. I think you kind of you're starting off on the right foot, but I think it's a multi. I don't think Staley's back in those ranks quick. Like I think it's a multi-year trajectory for him.
Yeah, for sure. And you just hinted at those two heavyweight titles against the Rams and the Bills. Out of those two, which one do you think they have the most likelihood to win?
probably, probably neither one. Probably
Yeah.
neither one. Maybe the Rams because maybe Stafford's hurt or something. So we'll go Rams on
I
that
don't
one.
know,
But
man. Every time we go out to LA, like covering the team, it's just like it feels like a complete different tier of ball just being played. In all honesty,
yeah,
so I don't know. We'll have to see. But you brought up something interesting with Chris Olave saying how he's now one of the veterans on the offense. I was kind of in my head just kind of going through which players have the most potential on this team currently constructed to be in the GO conversation for the Saints, like a Saints all-time great and a Saints all-time player. And Chris is really one of the only people that I could think of this quickly. Besides, like, Eric McCoy probably can end up on that list too. But kind of where do you think that's at on the offensive side of the ball?
greats.
Yeah. Yeah. Who can be an all-time great
I mean,
for
besides
this?
Alvin,
Of course, Alvin. I had him already in there, but I'm talking about like the younger kind of tier player.
I don't think there's anyone on that path right now. Honestly, I don't
Okay.
think there is. I mean, I think a lot of people got a lot to prove. Chris has missed too many games so far.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think he has the talent and the ability. He starts catching passes where he's not in position to get concussed repeatedly. I think that kind of helps, quite a bit. But
Yeah.
um, he's got the talent to do it. Shaheed, he's been hurt too much, and then outside of that, who is it right now? There just really isn't anyone on the team that's like clearly doing it on that like all-time great scale. I think Chris obviously has the talent to end up being one of the better receivers on the team. But I also look at him and it's like, man, if like they aren't a great offense this year, why is he staying? Like I
Also
I
true.
I, I
Yeah.
I have trouble projecting his future being here. If I were as it stands now, things could
Yeah.
change drastically over the next 2 years. Shuck could be the truth. Offense is great. Kellen Moore's a genius. You're on a path. You're getting 13, 1,400 yards. I think that's the type of player he can be. Like, if you're actually doing that here and they're winning games, yeah. But right now, as we sit today, year 3 into it, if I'm him, I'm telling him to, if I'm his advisor, I'm his agent,
Yeah.
I'm Zeke, I'm Josh, I'm, whoever. Like, I'd be telling him, hey, look, Like, just go get with a different go to Buffalo. Like, go do this, go do that. Like that's what I would be telling him to do.
Yeah.
So I can't even really see his future being here right now because I don't think it's as it sits today, it's not in his best interest. And yeah, I just I don't think they got anyone right now that's scratching that tier. That's in that category. McCoy obviously has a ton of talent. Maybe Banks gets there, maybe Fuaga gets there, but like none of them have done anything that makes me say like, they're up there with Colston. Like
Yeah.
I don't see it right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, even when you said Alvin's name, I was like, well, he's already the all-time leading rusher for the team, so that's already
Yeah.
in there. You know what I mean? It's a guaranteed, it's a lock. But those other players, you just don't know. It's too early to tell, or the scenario isn't right for them to completely flourish to their highest ability. It's a lot of unknowns. But one more game before we hit this break. The New England game. I think we haven't really talked about it enough because it's kind of a window into the future, kind of for this what this team can be. The new coach with a quarterback with another, solid receiver around him. Drake May, he now has Stephon Diggs, but a defensive piece. It kind of can be maybe what the Saints can look like next year.
Patriots got to hope they look like what they look like this year. Like it's not. I don't know that they're the model yet. They just fired their coach. They got a new coach. I mean,
Yeah,
it's hopeful, but these things have gone sideways before. So
yeah,
hopefully they figure it out. Hopefully they get it going. But I don't know that They could be good, but I'm not projecting great things for them right now. I think they got a ton to prove. But yeah, if you're in that position coming in the next offseason that they're in, it feels like they're in that realm. It feels like they're supposed to be that team, but they got a lot to prove.
yeah, yeah.